Hey Otterbein, Chef Dr. Mike here. One of my favorite things that we do with our faculty and our students at Otterbein is the late night breakfast, where I have the honor and privilege to serve you breakfast the Sunday before finals week. And unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do that this time. So what we thought might be fun is my beard and I are going to show you how to make one of my favorite breakfast items, which is a breakfast burrito. I'm a savory kind of breakfast person. I like savory over sweet. And this is a pretty simple recipe. You don't need too much to do it. Um, and so we'll have some fun going on this journey, and hopefully you enjoy. All right, so welcome to my kitchen. There's not much going on here, not too much to work with, but it's perfect for me. You can see, obviously, I have a TV in here, so that's so I can watch Supermarket Sweep as I cook, which is a wonderful game show from the 90s where people go through the supermarket and just try and find items. It's very fun. One of the first things I always do when I go to cook something is I make myself a list. Even if I have cooked it before, if it's a new recipe, I break it into three parts. All the ingredients I need, what I need to do to prep those ingredients, and then step by step in order when I'm doing something. That way I don't forget to add any ingredients, don't forget to do anything. So I'm going to start by getting my ingredients together and all the equipment I might need. Okay, let's take a look at our ingredients list here. So we're going to need, and this is to make one burrito. So if you're making for yourself and a friend, double it. Or just keep adding in the same quantities if you want to make a bunch of burritos for you and your roommates or your family. So for one burrito, we're going to need 2 slices of bacon. I like the stuff, the thick cut stuff from the deli counter. I get our hickory smoked bacon. I also like the pepper bacon. I try to avoid the maple bacon just because, again, I'm going for a savory flavor here, but get whatever you like. Nice thing of frozen potatoes O'Brien, right? Our potatoes, onions, and green and red peppers. If you have the time and energy, making your own potatoes O'Brien is easy and tastes wonderful. But for what we're trying to do today, nice and simple, the frozen stuff we're gonna get a lot of flavor out of that. We're gonna need 2 eggs, some butter, nice coarse kosher salt, and fresh ground pepper. Right, the fresh ground stuff, you're going to get a lot more flavor. I'm also going to add onion powder, garlic powder, and a little cayenne, just because I like a little heat from my cayenne. And also I'm obsessed with onion and garlic powder, so I pretty much add that to anything that possibly makes sense. Need some tortillas, right? You'll see here I bought the whole wheat tortillas. This is not going to be a healthy meal. We're going to be frying our stuff in bacon grease. So for every very unhealthy decision, I try and add one healthy decision. So I'm going with the whole wheat tortillas here. We're gonna want some shredded cheese. You can do some cheddar. I got some Colby here. Whatever you like. I like the way Colby melts. I like to buy the block and then do the shredding myself. For those of you that don't know, when you get the packaged stuff that's pre-shredded, the packaged stuff has a coating on it, so when it's on the store shelf, the cheese doesn't stick together. It doesn't clump up. And so that coating actually kind of hinders the melting process. So if you can, it's a little more expensive, but getting a nice freshly shredded block of cheese is going to be great. That's also nice because you can also keep that Colby Jack or whatever you might have, and if you have friends come over for dinner, right, you can just put out some cheese and some crackers, and right away you've upped your fanciness notch a few points by serving fresh cheese and crackers. So some nice fresh cheese is always good to have around. I'm gonna top mine with some hot sauce. Again, I love this stuff, this premium habanero. If you don't like hot sauce, don't worry about adding the hot sauce with a cayenne pepper. And spice up the eggs a little bit. I like to add some green for some nice fresh color in everything I do when I can. So I'm going to chop up some chives. Definitely not necessary, but adds a nice little look and a little crunch to your eggs. So it's going to be great. Okay, I'm having to get creative here on how to set up my phone because I live alone, so I have no one that can hold my phone for me. So the next step that I started, and I'm going to finish right now, is actually my favorite part of cooking. It's called mise en place, which means to put in place. And so I like to get all of my ingredients, ready to go If I got to do anything like shred my cheese or cut my chives, I got my eggs cracked, I got quantities measured out. Anything that you can do ahead of time is great. Cooking is all about timing. And so if you don't have to stop and say, oh crap, I forgot to shred my cheese, right, you don't have to worry about that. So I got a nice sharp knife. Again, not too much here. I'll just cut and dice a little bit of our chives. For chives, green onions, a lot of people avoid the base, where it starts to turn white. For green onions, oh, my phone has low battery. It's all right, we'll survive. This doesn't take too long. But you get a lot of flavor from the base of the either green onions or chives. So I like to use it all. The greenier stuff uses a nice garnish, but you get a lot of flavor out of the base. So we don't need too much. We'll just cut up a little bit of chives with my knife, and then we need some shredded cheese here. So let's see, I don't want it too crazy, so I need about 1/8 of a cup, so nothing too crazy, right? We're only making one burrito here, so we're not going to need too much. But that nice fresh cheese is going to go great. It's going to melt real nicely, give us a nice gooey burrito. Okay. And that about does it. And I have a lot of cheese left over that is more than good to eat later on. If you're cooking on a budget or trying to be smart about it, like I always do, plan ahead, right? I'm only using one tortilla, and I had to buy a bunch of tortillas. So I've also planned to make tacos later this week to make sure I use all that stuff up. And heck, maybe I can even use some of this cheese as well. So got my cheese cut, got everything in place. I even cracked my eggs. Again, we don't want to let the eggs start breaking down yet, so you actually don't want to break the yolk. We're actually not going to whisk them ahead of time. A little trick from Gordon Ramsay. We're going to be making Gordon Ramsay style eggs. Yeah. Okay, for our bacon here, there's a bunch of different ways you can cook bacon. I'm going to use, this is my favorite item in my kitchen, my Dutch oven. So versatile. I'm going to be cooking stuff in here in the bacon grease, so I like having these high walls to help avoid the splatter. Another nice little tool that I have, right? Nice little splatter guard here. When this thing starts to bubble, I don't have to clean up my kitchen too much. So what we want to do, right, is we want, right, low and slow with bacon. You actually want to start it in a cold pan, okay? So if you're doing it on the stove top, you can use a cast iron skillet or something like that. We're going to cook this bacon nice, low and slow. This was a personal present of mine. The first thing I did when I moved into my house here was got myself a nice gas stove top here so I can control the heat very nicely, but a little above low. Get this going. You can see we're up on the edges a little bit because we got some nice big pieces of bacon. That's okay. Make sure you have a nice good set of tongs. We're going to be turning this bacon a lot. The first time we turn it, though, we want to wait until the bacon actually releases itself from the pan, right? We don't want to start pulling on it and actually start ripping the bacon up from the pan. So we'll give this a few minutes, and we'll come back here in a second. All right, I cranked this up here a little bit to about medium-low. You can see I'm trying to keep the bacon flat. We're going to obviously be able to flatten it out as it starts to curl up a little bit. You can see definitely not sticking to the pan anymore. That's good. In a few minutes here, I'm going to flip. But again, you're not just going to flip once. You're going to be flipping back and forth. We want to try and cook this bacon evenly on both sides. So give it a few more minutes here. A couple other things too. When it comes to cooking, there's definitely right and wrong ways to do things when it comes to cooking, but there's also opinions, right? And so I'm a student of the culinary arts. I try and learn along the way from reading online or watching cooking shows or family and friends. My brother, Dr. Doug, is a great chef that I get a lot of stuff from him. Friends in the business, so I learn along the way. So if I'm doing something that you're not used to doing or you like to do it a different way, by all means, you learn as you go. Every time I cook, I learn something new, and it's okay if something doesn't turn out perfect the first time. That's half the fun, in my opinion. Okay, let's get our first flip here. Like I said, we're going to be flipping a little bit back and forth. Got to be careful because I'm going to move the phone because I don't want to be splattering myself or the phone. My house is starting to wonderfully smell like bacon, which is great news. Again, low and slow here. Another way I really like to do bacon, it's actually one of the easier ways in terms of cleanup, is in the oven is a nice way on some nice parchment paper. But because I want to cook our potatoes right in the bacon grease when we get done here, I'm going to be flipping back and forth here for a few more minutes, and we'll come back when our bacon's nearly done. Okay, my bacon's starting to look how I like it. The answer to is my bacon done is kind of a matter of preference, right? Because I kind of like I like not too crispy, not too soft, somewhere right in between. I've been moving this around in here, switching sides, so I can get it as evenly cooked as I can. But you can see we got some nice color everywhere. My ends still maybe need a little few more minutes. So what I'm going to do here, right, is I'm going to turn my heat down to low, so I can avoid some splattering as I transfer my bacon. Right, your bacon's going to cook a little more as you take it out, okay, as it sits and rests. So I want to put it on a plate with a paper towel to let that grease drain off, okay. And then what I also like to do, we're going to dab the grease a little bit here and just let that cool. I personally like to chop my bacon, so I'm going to chop this up when it cools down, enough for me to grab it without burning my fingers. But that looks pretty darn good to me. All right, so now we got our nice bacon grease. Okay, I'm going to scrape some of this stuff off the top. That's all the good stuff that we want. Okay, I'm not going to use all this bacon grease, so what I'm going to do is actually, I'm going to have to take the phone out, but I'm going to take a little bit of this out. We're not going to use all of it. You can see I'm still keeping the temperature on low because we don't want it to start to cool before we add our taters. Okay, I've removed about half the bacon grease. Okay, we don't need it all. Don't throw that stuff out. I would recommend straining it and put it in the freezer. It's not the healthiest recommendation in the world, but it adds flavor to a lot of things, pasta sauces. Clearly, I grew up in the kind of cooking family that didn't necessarily focus on health as much as maybe we should have. But always a great way to add flavor. So now I'm going to add about a half cup of my potatoes here. I'm going to crank my temperature up to medium, right? And get everything nice and covered. Right, we're not going to need to cook or do too much to this, right? We're going to maybe bring it down a little bit from medium here, and we are going to want to cook covered. I'm going to stir it a couple times for about 10 minutes, so I'll check it after 5 minutes and see how our taters look.